Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Stoppage Time Podcast. This show is brought to you, as always, by our fantastic sponsors, Cheap Day Sydney, Apollo Entertainment Canberra, and New Genesis, as well as our new partners, Player 11 Store. Joining me today is Val and Yanni. How are you, boys?
Good, bro. How are you?
Oh man, I have been better. I've been better, like physically.
Uh,
I don't know if you know George, but I actually did get COVID.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, I
I've
got on
actually.
Tuesday.
So you're out next Tuesday, I presume.
Yep, but I've still got next Tuesday off from work.
Oh,
So yeah, let's just say, yeah, like physically,
yeah, I
I've
was
been.
I was in that boat
Yeah.
pretty recently. Like when I went Val with live with Val last time. I actually had just when it was just us two. I had COVID on that episode as well. But yeah, it's
There you go.
I'm
interesting.
just sick in general because of the team that I support. We struggle,
Well, that's a pretty
to
good
be
segue.
happy.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a pretty good segue.
but
Premier
you
League
know,
action this morning. All the results were pretty expected, except for two. And the first of the unexpected results, which I'll start on, is me and Val's boys United 1-1 draw with Leicester. Yanni as the neutral, do you want to start with this one?
okay, I'll just say one thing to begin. How is that interesting?
Oh, Leicester have been just
How's
as
that
shit as we
interesting
are.
result?
Leicester have been just as shit as we are this year. At home, I would have expected to beat them.
It's painful.
Okay, well, what about the first leg?
That was under a different manager who played.
But
yeah.
Look, I don't know. Look, see, I understand Leicester have been playing not at their full potential, but there's just something about Leicester where, like, even like a Watford, they're those teams where they will be shit for majority of the season, but they've got those 2-3 players and they'll play that one game where you think that's their full potential. But more on the game, yeah, no, I'm not surprised about it at all, especially seeing Ronaldo not starting. I think that was a
Ronaldo was sick.
He was sick, huh?
There was in all seriousness, there was a bug going through the team. Lingard was actually reported to be throwing up at half time, and he was on the bench. So that doesn't take away from the lack of performance. But yeah,
no excuses whatsoever. Yeah, I am not surprised. Like you say, there's two scores. For me, it's just one score, and I think we know what the other game is with the interesting score. But yeah, no, I'm not surprised at all. You guys had your chances. Iheanacho missed a few chances as well. Yeah, no, I'm not shocked at all, and I think Leicester have done well to get a draw out of you guys because I can't remember what they're coming. Leicester, I think they're coming.
They are 11th.
They're 11th. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that's just been a massive, what's it called? Massive thing of evidence to your season so far. And Mulbridge said it himself. Like this game was nothing to do with like getting top 4 or like it was more of a game it was a game for the fans because we've been out for 2.5 weeks and you guys have had your season, this whole season so far. And that should have been a game where you should have gotten the points at home to say to the fans, you know what? Yes, we've been shit the whole season and we're not in any tournaments, like in any cups. But hey, we've put it and that's the United way right now, just not putting in the effort.
Val, do you have anything to add on that?
You guys go.
Yeah, I'm going to make it short and sweet because you know me, I can go on and on. I personally think like today would have been good if we had the 3 points just for a confidence booster after the international break, just to get the boys' confidence back. Like Yanni said, I know that we don't have anything to fight for anymore. Champions League's out of the window. Top 4 is looking, depending on the Arsenal result on Monday, it's looking, like it's going to be out the window as well. I think it's just the players have given up. Now I'm going to bring it back obviously to the old days when the players had nothing to fight for, but they'll still fight for the badge. At least fight for the badge. You know what I mean? But nowadays it's just these players don't care. Like, and I'm sure most of you saw my story today when I put the Bruno Fernandes interview up. It's the same script every time. Yes,
look, I just want to play devil's advocate on that because, yeah, I get that you're saying it's the same script every time, but obviously, I genuinely do think the players are disappointed, and there's just no other words to say. I mean, yes, it does sound vague and rogue hearing it over and over again, but look, there are some players that I do think are genuinely disappointed, and the fact that Bruno Fernandes has had to front the media today instead of Harry Maguire tells you something. But Val, do you want to continue on that?
But at the same time, yes, that some players are disappointed. Well, the question is, what are they doing about it? Because at the same time, we sacked Ollie, and it seems like with Ranić, we're still playing the same football. It looks like Ollie's still at the wheel for me. Like it just looks like the same thing.
Look,
I don't think anything's changed. I don't think anything.
No, I think just while you're on that, that's why when Ole got sacked, I was a lot more. I wouldn't say I completely defended Ole, but I wasn't as adamant for him to get sacked as, let's say, you and Donny were. And the reason being is because any manager that walks into United is set up to fail. And when I looked at that current crop of players, I thought, what manager could actually extract more out of them? And Ranić is a football man with his own philosophy, but ultimately he's managing with his hands tied as well. And I want
to bring a stat up before you continue. I want to bring a stat up today, and I don't know why they're still playing this player, McTominay. 9 times he lost the ball today. 9 times, right? 0 challenges won. 0 chances created. Now this is a midfielder we're talking about. Why not play Matic? I know Matic can't play game in, game out, but play him for this game. Why play McTominay? You know a player is failing. Forget about Maguire. I know Maguire's going to play every week, no matter how bad he plays. He's going to play every week. But why not play someone else instead of McTominay? He does mistakes week in, week out. And just because he does one thing good, it's the same with every United player. They do one thing good, they praise him, and they keep on playing just because they did that one thing. But those 10 times that they failed, they've done nothing about it. It's the same on United, and it'll always be the same.
Look, just on the game itself, let's look at Leicester's midfield. Yuri Tielemans, Wilfred Ndidi, James Maddison. If those 3 got sold tomorrow, they probably have a combined value of 180 million. So, what's so key to winning games in the Premier League these days, especially with the end-to-end nature of the games, is dominating the midfield. And when you've got those 3 midfielders compared to McTominay and Fred, of course they're always going to be competitive. Now, just on McTominay and Fred, look, I love that they do show passion. Fred, to be fair to him, has improved under Ranić, and I feel like that's because he's being played in the 6 as opposed to the 8. But
he's playing as an 8. He's playing as an 8 instead of a 6.
8 instead of a 6, yes.
Yeah.
Look, and as for McTominay, you can put Fred in the same bracket as well. They are 2 players that I do genuinely feel as though they care about the club, but ultimately, no other team in the top 10 would start them, and that showed today. A team who coming 11th outclassed them in midfield.
There you go.
And it just keeps coming back to Matic is our alternative. But if Matic can't play more than 2 games back to back, why is he even at the club? It just goes to show our lack of structure from the head office, showing that non-footballing people are making football decisions with regards to transfer and contract situation. We have 8 players off contract at the end of the year, which goes to show how unorganised we've been with regards to which players we do and don't want to keep and not moving them on earlier.
Very unorganised, honestly.
And just with regards to Harry Maguire, you brought him up. Look, the thing with Harry Maguire is that he makes a whole backline around him worse. And the reason apart from his defensive ability, the reason I say that is he tries to compensate his lack of attributes that he does have, most notably his pace, by forcing the rest of the backline deep. And Ranić has clearly stated he wants to play a high line. And what that causes is the midfield and the forwards, while they weren't productive on the ball today, and I say the same thing about the Manchester derby where we got beat, I actually thought they pressed really well. But the reason why Leicester and in 3 weeks ago's case, Manchester City always had the outball on the press is because Maguire forced the defensive line to drop so far deep that the forwards could always pick up the ball in space and turn and run at them. That's why Harvey Barnes had a great game today running at Luke Shaw and Tellers in the second half. Maddison was threatening and ultimately scored. And as we saw in the derby, Mahrez had a field day because Harry Maguire is compromising the whole back line. As we saw with Lindelof, yes, we might necessarily have won the games, but that wasn't because we defended poorly. That was our problems on the other half of the pitch. But yeah, enough about United. Obviously, a United player that did play well in the international friendlies was Bruno Fernandes. Got a double to see Portugal through to the World Cup at the expense of Macedonia, who, in the biggest upset of the tournament, knocked off Italy. Thoughts on that game, boys?
Oh, well, are we going to stick with the Premier League or we'll go to the international? Because
just a quick word on Chelsea versus Brentford because the rest was pretty expected.
Okay, well, we can we can still talk about the Premier League for a little bit longer if you want. I like to
No,
talk
just-
about. No, okay, whatever.
Just a quick word on
No,
Chelsea.
we'll-
George, you're talking to a Scouser now. He wants to talk about his win against Watford, so let him give him his spotlight.
Oh,
No.
glorious
No,
upset
actually-
against Watford. Glorious
No,
upset.
I actually do.
Hey,
I actually do want to talk
they
about
beat him.
Brentford and
At least
Chelsea.
they beat him.
Yeah.
No, I actually do want to talk about Brentford and Chelsea. And I was watching that game today, and
Good win by
what
Chelsea.
the hell? What the
Rudiger, what a
hell
goal.
was that? And it was funny because I saw
Goal
this
of
stat on
season for me.
Instagram, actually. I saw this stat on Instagram, and it was Brentford's whole squad value times 4 is the equivalent to Chelsea's value.
Wow. 4-1, man. I
And,
couldn't believe the score.
mate,
It's a
Christian
nice
Eriksen
heartwarming
comes
moment to
back.
see Christian. Yeah, nice heartwarming
Christian
moment.
Eriksen comes back to, haunt the Blues. Yeah, what a game. And even Janelt's goal, I think it was set up by Ivan Toney, that 1-2 pass in the middle, chips Mendy. What a finish that was. And I think, just to quickly end that game, because I obviously didn't watch the game, the full game, so I don't know much detail, but it's really crazy going back to, rewinding back to our first episode, and we're giving our predictions for the season, for the league. And we're saying, it's either Chelsea, Liverpool, Chelsea, Liverpool.
I said City.
Chelsea. Oh, I think it was majority of everyone said Chelsea.
Everyone
Liverpool.
else said Chelsea, Liverpool. I was the one out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're pretty much the only one right then, because Chelsea, yes, they've done it in Europe last year, but it's a completely different tournament. It's not the Champions League, the Premier League. It's a 38-game season, and you need to be consistent week in, week out. And at home, at Stamford Bridge, 4-1, thinking, what the hell was that? The goal from Rudiger, bloody one of the goals of the season by far right now. But they just absolutely tore the Blues apart. And I still can't wrap my hand around it. What do you boys think?
Anything to add, Val?
Yeah, I didn't see the game, but obviously I saw the score, and it was good to get obviously Eriksen back in as well. I watched the highlights as well. It was a dominant performance, and I didn't expect that, especially when Yanni said Stamford Bridge as well. You'd expect Chelsea to get those easy points and then move on to the next game, but Brentford gave it to them hard, and I said it before the season, when they beat Arsenal, I'm like, watch this team do damage, and obviously they haven't been going too well, but I think it's just against big teams. They just put up a show. You know what I mean?
I guess for me, that's why I always had City winning the league, because I always come back to the point. There are 30 points available against other teams in the top 6. There's 84 available against teams outside the top 6, and City just don't drop those points. And yeah, on Brentford, fair play to them. I always thought they'd stay up. I thought they were unfairly considered as one of the 3 teams to go down just because they'd never played in the Premier League before. But yeah, that's enough of the Premier League. As we spoke earlier, biggest upset of the international break, Italy, Macedonia. Yanni, we'll start with you on this one.
I mean, look, I know there's people watching, and I don't want to get into too much politics. Obviously, certain country rivalries and with history, but I mean, that's the Italiani for you. They play the big teams, they play well. They play the small teams, they play shit. What's his name? Got sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. Yeah, I was shocked, to be honest with you. And how funny is this? And all the North Macedonians will probably laugh at this. They pulled off that massive upset on Greek Independence Day. Woo!
Yes, they did. They did. 25th of March.
Talk about bloody timing. Thank God for Portugal. Anyway, but that's a upset, complete upset. And that's a second World Cup in a row for Italy.
Yes. Wow. Val, do you have anything to add to that? And Val, just before I go to you, Italy and Greece are now the only European champions to not qualify for the following World Cup.
Yeah, we didn't do that in 2006. We didn't qualify for Germany in 2006. But yeah, look, back to the game. I think I actually ended up watching the full game. It wasn't the Italy that was at the Euros. That Italy at the Euros was something else. This Italy was very. It's like they buckled. They struggled hard, and obviously when it reached to 85 minutes, I'm like, hang on a second, these guys, there's no goals.
Still not long,
It was a shocking result, yeah. And when they scored, when North Macedonia scored, it was I was shocked. Like I just didn't expect it. But then when they won, and then obviously Portugal had to play them, I'm like, listen, Portugal are not going to slip up. Come on, they've obviously. I'm not saying because they got Ronaldo and stuff, but look at I personally think Portugal have a better squad depth than Italy does.
Yeah.
And
Look, I think Portugal would have beaten Italy anyway, to be honest.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Regardless of that, I think Portugal would have qualified regardless if Italy went through. But this is football for you,
And after that, the World Cup draws actually come out. I think so far the most interesting group is the one with Spain, Germany, Japan, and whoever qualifies out of the intercontinental playoff between New Zealand and Costa Rica. So that is looking
I know where you're going with this, George.
Yeah, you said that historical joke. I'm thinking like, what the hell is this bloke talking about?
Yes, and other go check out the World Cup groups. We'll be hearing a lot more about it in when it comes around in November. Kickoff times for that in Australia, for those of you who don't know, will be 9 p.m, midnight, 3 a.m, and 6 a.m. So 3 pretty decent kickoff slots. Everything's good apart from the 3 a.m. one. And other teams that are notably have missed out on this World Cup: Chile, they're not going to be there. Colombia won't. Egypt, obviously we can talk. Egypt, while we're on Egypt, we're going to talk about the farce that was the penalty shootout between Senegal and Egypt. How is it that fans are allowed to shine laser lights in the eyes of a player and the officials just do nothing about it?
Yeah, I'll talk about that because
they didn't do that. It was a disco, apparently. Apparently, it was a disco.
Let me get involved with this because I had to see my Egyptian god suffer the way he did. Like,
Glad Mane won.
How do you expect that man to take a penalty with a full freaking duv rave happening in his eyes? Did you see it? It was like
it was bad. It was bad.
All green. It was like the fucking Green Lantern was waving in his face. Like,
and this is one in a string of many incidents in the AFCON area. And following back to the African Cup of Nations, we all know the shit show that happened there.
Yeah,
with Yanni Sinkawazi's officiating, to the stampede that happened, to this.
Why do you know that name?
That ref's name is infamous.
I don't want to remember his name. Jeez.
Oh, anyway, that's funny now. Yeah, Val, anything to add to
that? Look, that's why we call George Brains. That's his nickname, Brains, of the group, because he knows, and that's why we're blessed to have him as well. Because if we don't know anything, George will be on top of it, and he'll let us know. We'll learn something new. But look, it was sad to say that. Obviously, like no player, no matter if it's rivalry and that, no player should be going through that. I mean, lasers should not be obviously allowed in the stadium. I don't know what happened, but it's
that's dangerous to a person's eyes as well.
Yeah,
it is because it's not nothing. It's something this way, especially when he's taking a penalty. It blinds someone's eyes. They don't notice the effect. It might not affect you then. Yeah, you'll get blurry a bit, but later on in the run, it does affect you. Look, like I said, it was sad to see that, but at the same time, I don't know. Like it's as most people say, like you should have finished it off in the 90 minutes.
Yeah,
Look, it's like boxing. It's like boxing. Never leave it up to the judges.
Yeah. Look, another country that may be missing out on the World Cup. Actually, our home country. We've got to go through a playoffs now against the UAE, and if we win that, we will be playing against Peru. And look, this is a scenario that Australia had to go through, but obviously it wasn't against a South American country. It was against Honduras for the last World Cup. And the two before that, Australia automatically qualified. Now, before we go into the debate, or just to talk about Australian football, our last home game of this qualifying campaign was against Japan, who are the benchmark of Asian football, it's safe to say. It's been... Yeah, he had a shocker against us, but yeah, let's continue. We have not been in Japan since 2009. Tim Cahill scored a double that game in a 2-1 win at Melbourne. It's been 7 years since we've taken a point off them. And Australia were the Asian Cup champions in 2015. I'll start with you, Yanni. Why do you think Australian football's fallen so far?
And this is something that, like, Val and I will talk about at a coffee shop a few times, like because I'm playing football right now. Like, I'm playing PL2 right now, so obviously it's not that level, but I involve myself with Australian football in that way. I just think it goes down to like there's so many factors you can talk about. You can talk about the general quality. You can talk about the coaching. You can talk about the genuine desire, the commitment. And let me just ask this one question about the game against Japan. This is like it was our second last chance to make it into the World Cup.
And we had to win.
We had to win against the best Asian team right now. Which country in our situation would start a freaking 34-year-old striker on their debut?
Oh, he didn't start. He came on, but
Australia
Sorry,
would.
You're right. Yeah, you're right. He did come on. I see. I already forgot about the game because I just don't want to remember it. Yeah, he came on. Sorry, a 34-year-old striker. It's just backwards decision making for me. And Graham Arnold, as much as I loved him when he was at Sydney FC, he is just absolutely not cut out for the Australian job. And like, I mean, you, George, or Val, whoever can like pinpoint one factor that I just mentioned before, whether it's quality, whether it's commitment, whether it's the coaching, I just think it's a mixture of everything. And we are just not up there with how it used to be back in the mid-2000s, obviously. Even the Asian Cup winning team in 2015, we're just... I can't put a finger on it.
Yeah, Val, I'll let you answer this first because I want to have the last word on this because I might take a couple of minutes. So, Val, you go first.
Yeah, look, Yannis said obviously, like, when it comes to old school, like back in the day when the Socceroos were actually really good, we had players back then that actually played outside of Europe. Yes, we have players that are playing outside of Europe now, but it's not the...
In Europe, you mean?
It's not those in Europe. So outside of Australia, yeah. We don't have those players that have that fight anymore like we do.
It's late, guys. For those that are watching, it's late.
It's like my Dragons just lost against Eels, so that's why I'm a bit off.
Mate, anyway. I had to watch my team Cop 44 against the Doggies, but yeah, continue against Melbourne. So just continue, yeah. We're
both soft on it. Anyway, look, like I said, look, Australian football needs a lot of work. And look, I'm not really. Most of the boys know I'm not really much of a Socceroos fan. Yes, I was born here in Australia, but it is what it is. I'm not a Socceroos fan. I was never a fan of the football system here in Australia. Never will be, because it's certain people that are running the game that have no idea, and it's obviously pretty much like Man United. You've got the money, but you don't know what to do. Like with football here in Australia, we need to start off with a proper league. When the A-League came in here, it was a curse straight away. And everyone called it. Even, yes, I understand the NSL days, some clubs didn't have the financial stability to go forward into the A-League. Now it's changed completely. A lot of the NPL clubs, you'll be surprised at how much money they have. Not just because the owners are putting money into it, but they got the venues as well, what they do and stuff. But at the same time, the Football Australia needs to understand that there's other teams as well here in Australia, not just 11 or 12 teams, depending on how many teams we have. How many do we have in the A-League? 12? 12 now. You can add as many teams as you want, but if you don't have that promotion relegation, it's not gonna happen. The crowds, look at the derby yesterday. 10,000 went. That's not normal for an A-League derby. How many used to go to a derby back in 2012, 2013?
I remember the first ANZ Stadium derby was a 55,000 attendance.
Well, there you go. What the question is, you got to put a question mark now on Football Australia. It all leads to Football Australia. What do you do now? Your numbers are low. You're not going well in numbers. You've got Channel 10. No one's watching it. Paramount Plus. No one's watching it. The whole hype behind Paramount Plus was for nothing. They've wasted so much money on that.
I spend more time watching Big Time Rush on Paramount Plus than I do watching the A-League, but yeah.
There you go. But at the same time, like, no one watches the A-League anymore. You understand what I mean? Like, it's difficult to say, but at the same time, you get what you deserve. These people want to set out the league like that, set up football in Australia like that. Exactly. But then don't complain when people don't come into the stadiums and fill out seats.
Look, I'm going to have my Yeah, only go on before I have my bit of.
No, I'd
word.
say one thing. Like, it'll take 2 seconds. You said there were 50,000 at the old school derbies with Sydney FC and Western Sydney. There was more at those derbies than there were at Sydney FC and Newcastle Jets when we had Del Piero and they had Emil Heskey. Go on.
Yeah, and just while you're on attendance, the weird thing about football in Australia is like crowd attendance isn't necessarily determined by success. Sydney FC had won 3 of the last 4 A-Leagues. Their average attendance was 8,000. Sydney FC's highest attendance was when Del Piero was there, and that we only played one finals game in that entire time that he was there. So football in Australia, because we're so starved of quality, we want to see these marquee names, which just unfortunately aren't coming anymore. But look, I'm going to go back to my problem with Australian football. Actually comes from the NPL and the grassroots system. That for me is the main problem. And just hear me out.
Yeah, no, I agree with it. Go on.
The first obstacle is the price tag. If your family is not financially stable and can't afford it, and your kid is talented footballer, clubs just don't care. They won't look at you. And let's say we pass that hurdle, price isn't an issue. Australian culture has such a demand for results at an early age. So kids that don't physically develop early and don't have a chance to prove that they're a player, they're going to get cast out straight away. Now, let's say that you are a physical specimen, your family's got the money, you're in that system. The coaching is just so obsessed with but the reason being is they're just so obsessed with taking the safe option because that they think they know that all Barcelona did was take the safe option, was just they grew up watching Barcelona, prime Barcelona, just pass the ball, and they think that's what all you have to do with no risk involved. So just having physical specimens that take the safe option, what that creates is midfielders that can't play ball between the lines and see gaps, because every time they try and do that, they'll get abused by their coach. You get wingers and fullbacks that can't cross the ball or know how to take a player on one-on-one, because once again, if they take that risk and it doesn't come off, their coaches abuse them for it. And generally speaking, when you're watching NPL games, it's only broken open really by a mistake when it happens. It's not by a moment of brilliance. And the reason being is because the coaches have just gotten into a monotonous nature of not encouraging risk-taking, just taking the safe option. But ultimately, football is a game where you have to have some sort of risk in crucial areas of the field. If you want to bring that back to when these players feed through, eventually playing the A-League, playing the national team, we had Japan on the ropes for 15 minutes, but didn't know what to do because we didn't have a player that could break the lines.
I'm sorry, Josh. When you said brilliance, I just thought of individual brilliance. I don't know if you saw that meme. That's what I was trying not to laugh. I was holding it in so bad, but I needed to release it, bro.
Look for me.
For me, it's individual brilliance.
For me.
Anyway,
for me.
Continue, George.
For me.
Yeah, back to that. It's just our defenders start off right because they're playing against attackers that have no sort of risk-taking ability. But then once they come up against a guy that knows how to beat a player one-on-one, or against a team that knows how to systemically break a low block, we're in trouble because we just haven't come up against it before.
Yeah.
And I feel it's just something like someone that's been through that system that really stuck with me when I saw coaches just coaching that creativity and risk-taking ability out of players. Because like when you look at Australia, we do have Matt Ryan's a decent goalkeeper. Yes, he made a bit of a mistake against Japan, but on the whole, he's been a good keeper for the best part of a decade. Our backline generally play all right. We've got good defenders, always have. Our defensive midfielders generally all right, but in the part of the position, the wingers, our 10s, our forwards that require risk-taking ability, we just can't cut it because it's been coached out of them, and that's what frustrates me so much. Yanni, go on.
You finish off.
Yep, just to finish off. And as for the coaching issue, this isn't the first time Graham Arnold's coached the Socceroos. He failed the last time he had them, and he's failed again. The only time he's ever been successful is in the A-League. He's had stints coaching overseas in Asia, whether it be in Japan or China, and he's failed at both of them too.
So why hire him again? That's the question.
Yeah, that's the incompetence.
Just because you have domestic success doesn't mean you've what's the difference?
The reason why I didn't agree, I agree with Arnold's appointment. Arnold's appointment the first time, fair enough. It was after Gus Hiddink. He was Hiddink's assistant. he failed at the Asian Cup. He got the sack then. But since then, yes, he's had A-League success, but he's failed in Asia twice. We already know that he failed as the coach of a national team with fantastic players at the time, fantastic, world-class compared to what we have today. And we still hire him again. And I think the biggest issue is that the actual clubs and the Football Association are separate from each other. So there's no continuity from top to bottom. So
that's a really good point.
there's no organisation, there's no communication, nothing between those big boards and all that.
Look, we could do an entire podcast on this, invite people that have been through the system like Val, myself, and Yanni. And look, but based on the Socceroos, look, as a country, we still get behind it. We do. I personally, for one, I've always been behind the Socceroos, even though yes, I am proud of my Greek heritage, but look, it's always been Australia for me.
Oh, but, look, I mean, I went to the Asian Cup final in 2015. I was at the game in Brisbane, and no, it wasn't in Brisbane.
It was Sydney. It was Sydney.
I also went to watch the semi-final against South Korea. No, quarterfinal.
No, the semi-final was against the UAE, and it was in Newcastle. I was there too.
Okay, which game was it in Brisbane?
We did play Korea in Brisbane, but that was the last group game. That was the only game we lost that tournament.
Yeah, that's right. And I went to the final, and I love the Socceroos. I love, I remember watching Australia play in 2006. I love watching Australia play. Obviously, like you said, George, Greek heritage is always up there as well. But like that's just and see, this is why like when we have coach debates about the Premier League, like Klopp or Pep. When we talk about coaches, it is so important to have a coach that has his philosophy set straight and is also willing to take risks and expand on that philosophy. Watching Australia versus Japan, I was watching with my dad, and he can tell you the exact same thing. Watching that game, the amount of times we'd win the ball back, because Japan will always have the ball more than us because they've just got better quality on the ball and off the ball. The amount of times we'd get the ball back and we'd just hoover it up. We just hoover it up like we're playing freaking under 12s bloody C's. Like it's just childish football. I'm thinking to myself, like, am I honestly watching myself play back when I was 5 years old? They'd win the ball back. They'd panel beat as hard as they could, pressing to get the ball back. It's all obviously unstructured pressing, and it's just a fucking mess. Pardon my language, right? And they get the ball, or they panic. They don't know where to pass. They don't want to play it back because playing back is bad in Australia.
That's what I mean. All risk taking ability and creativity has been coached out of them. But look, this is probably something we're going to need to dedicate a whole separate podcast to. But
we'll definitely do one.
We've spoken about the Asian Cup, and obviously Australia's coach at the Asian Cup, in my opinion, Australia's greatest ever coach, was Ange Postecoglou, and he's actually in action right now in the Old Firm derby.
It's 1-1.
It's 1-1, is it?
It's 3 minutes. Rangers scored in 3 minutes, and then Tom Rogic scored 1-1.
Oh, Tom Rogic, another good.
So right now,
it's actually had an alright career.
I'm actually watching the score now, so it's 1-1.
So actually, I'll just give you some context going into this game. Celtic are 3 points ahead of Rangers with a sizable goal difference advantage. 8 games to go.
If Celtic win now, they've won the league at Rangers' ground.
Yeah, seven games to go. You think if Celtic can hang on, that'll be it?
7 games.
Your quick thoughts on that? Yeah, there's 38 games in the Scottish League.
Oh, because it said 32 out of 33 on this one.
Oh, maybe. No, because then they split the league for the championship and relegation play.
Oh, okay, yeah. Look, I look back to this. I think if Celtic win this game, I think it's game and done. I think it'll be game. This match is pretty much the grand final. That's it. Simple as that. If one of these teams needs to win.
Yanni, your closing thoughts?
It's funny, and I know you guys are going to take the piss out of me for it, but I'll always have a soft spot for Rangers because of who they used to coach there. They won the league undefeated. But I mean, yeah, look, I'm not a massive watcher of the Scottish League because I just look at it like it's Bayern Munich. Celtic are Bayern Munich. Yeah, they didn't win it last year, but whatever. They won it. 10 years before that, 9 years before that. So it's not a massive game for me. But I do want to watch it when they come down to Australia. The first Old Firm derby outside of Australia. Sorry,
Just
outside
on
of
that note,
Scotland.
Rangers are attempting to pull out of that.
They've already
Really?
pulled out.
They already have pulled out, yeah.
They've
Rangers
already pulled
pulled
out,
out.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to. Because apparently the supporters of Rangers don't want to play friendlies against Celtic. They don't consider them as a friendly.
Okay, just play the
Just-
game. Just play the game.
Let's close with this.
You got to understand. Wait, you got to understand something, Yanni. It's different when here and different the mentality there. You know how the European mentality is.
Yeah, no, but
You
let's
can't stop them.
No, but let's close with this topic. United fans or Liverpool, we weren't having the sulk when we were playing Liverpool in America. We weren't having the sulk when we played a Manchester derby as a friendly.
Exactly.
The thing is, if they want to be considered big clubs worldwide, these are the sort of things you have to do, whether you like it or not.
Yeah. Whether it's a friendly or not, like I understand it. And even like friendly games that aren't involving rival teams, like they still play hard because football's football, no matter who you're playing against.
You can argue that Brazil versus Argentina is the biggest rivalry in world football, and they still played a friendly in Melbourne.
I think it's the Scottish mentality. Shout out to my Celtic supporters. I love Celtic, not just because of Postecoglou. I've loved Celtic even before when Samaras days.
Of course.
There's Giacomakis there now. I think he's playing.
Yeah. But no, Celtic's a good team. They've been two historic teams as well, and they're battling out now. Like I said, this is the win. Both teams have to try to win this game. This is pretty much like a grand final right now.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks to all of you for joining us for this episode. We're going to wrap up now so we can actually go on and watch the Old Firm derby. Yanni and Val, thanks for joining us. And once again, thanks to our sponsors, Cheat Day Sydney, New Genesis Entertainment, Apollo Entertainment Canberra, and our new partners at Player 11 Store. Go check them out. Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. See you later.
Appreciate it. Thank you.